What's going on, people? Welcome to another episode of the Natty News Daily podcast. I feel like I haven't got my face on this podcast for a minute, so thankfully, my boy Alex was able to jump on for an impromptu. This was a DM late last night, and here we are making it happen. So, number one, I appreciate everybody supporting Natty News still with the lack of podcasts. I know James has been still doing well keeping that up, and obviously we're doing our best to keep the Instagram page up to date. So thank you for your continued support, even if the podcast has kind of waned a little bit. But between the three of us, we're trying to keep things going. So today, um, I got my boy Alex on. He competed last year, as did I, and had a really, really good season across multiple shows, multiple federations, multiple standards of competition. So I thought there was a lot of value now that a lot of people are getting ready to compete this year. And on my end, personally, I have a lot of first timers competing this year. Last year was a lot of, I guess, vets, for lack of a better term, between myself, Alex, Ural, Calvin. The list goes on of more experienced competitors that hit the stage last year. But this year, I have a lot of newbies. I've had one, two, three or four competitions already this season, and five first timers on stage already. And it's just getting busier and busier. So I thought there was going to be a lot of good information with chatting to Alex today about what it takes to do well. What does it take to be very good at this? And um, I think Alex is going to be able to provide a lot of good insight from that. So, Alex, welcome to the podcast, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Alex mentioned before we got live here, he's a little under the weather, so don't razz on him for being a little stuffy. So, Alex, for those that don't know kind of your history within the sport, very briefly, when did you compete first? When did you start to last season? And then we'll kind of go from there.
So I did a single competition in 2022 with a different coach.
Yep.
It was a learning experience for sure.
Yep.
I didn't really know much about bodybuilding and the sport itself at the time. Just kind of did some research on Google and kind of
Yep.
jumped into it because I knew it was something I wanted to do. And even though the result of the show was a good one, I would say my overall experience wasn't what I had imagined. It was
Sure.
very hard on me physically, mentally, and I definitely didn't bring what I knew I could to the
Yeah.
stage. After that competition, I took a few years off to kind of rebuild the physique, which I did do.
Yeah.
And when I felt that I was ready to kind of take the plunge again, I did end up doing a lot more research and
Yeah.
my due diligence. And that's where I stumbled upon Leroy and reached out to him. And yeah, we had a conversation and, he kind of outlined what he thought the process would look like and,
Yeah.
lined up a few shows for us. And I knew right off the bat that I was in good hands. And yeah.
There we go. It's funny, man. Kind of serendipitous recording. I'm in my home gym right now because our house is ripped apart and I don't have an office, but I still can kind of remember being in here when you messaged me. And I remember taking a quick glance at your page and I was like, this guy's got some talent. And I remember like mid workout being like, hey man, you got time for a call right now. And we chatted for like, 20, 25 minutes, whatever it was. And you know, it's just funny how that kind of works itself out. So quickly, can you touch on what it felt like to step on stage in 22? Because I'm sure you had a vision for what that would look like with the physique you were intending to bring,
Mhm.
and seeing that not be the case. Because I think every competitor at some point is going to have that experience where, for whatever reason, whether it was the structure of the prep, the methods in which the prep took place, sickness, travel, like whatever the case may be, I think everybody at some point is going to step on stage and be like, mm, this isn't this isn't what I was hoping to unveil. What did that feel like? Because I remember you told me, way back when that you were like, man, I don't think I'll ever do this again after that period.
Yeah. I had expectations going into it. I had been lifting for 7 odd years at that point, so I
Yep.
wasn't really I wasn't like necessarily new to the gym. So I had built a bit of muscle on the frame, and I kind of again had expectations of what that would look like when we dieted down to competition leanness. So there is obviously everybody has a vision of like what they hope to look like.
Yeah.
And
Would you say you were um, realistic with that vision?
I, I I
Like
I often
objectively,
don't. Yeah,
yeah.
I would say so. I'm
Yep.
not. I didn't expect honestly to like. Performance wasn't on the top of my list. It was just I had a vision of what I really wanted to see for myself.
Yeah.
And primarily that was like getting absolutely like shredded to the bone.
Sure.
Because I've been seeing lots of competitors do that, and back in the day I didn't think that was attainable naturally because I didn't know any better. But then
Yeah.
looking into it, clearly naturals can get just as lean as
You bet.
enhanced guys.
Yeah.
So I wanted striated glutes. I wanted the whole package, and that was my expectation, regardless of placement. So like I said, just because the show went well for me that year,
Yeah. From a placings. Yep.
from a placing standpoint, I still did not achieve that bone shredded look that I knew I could
Yeah.
and wanted to bring.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, the prep was kind of like a crash prep. It was I believe it was 18, maybe 20 weeks in total. And I came to that coach this at the same body weight that I came to you at, so I was a pretty big boy.
Yeah.
A lot to pull off. Just to give you some numbers, I was 230 pounds, and I think we ended the season at one touching down at like 168. So it's quite a bit of a weight to pull off
Yep.
in
Yep.
20 weeks. So needless to say, my body didn't really
Yeah.
respond well to that kind of
Yeah.
condensed dieting, and just really took a toll on me. So
Totally. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So, one thing that I think is important to touch on that Alex mentioned was like his focus on what I want to bring over what I want to place. Because I think a lot of people start this process, this journey. I want to get into bodybuilding with the sole focus of, I want to win. I can't count how many times I'll have someone come to me who's never competed before that's like, I want to win the overall or I want to turn pro. And there's people that can do that, but those are the minority, right? You don't see people that are just starting this process that are going to win those things. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I tell people there's kind of like a ladder that a lot of people are going to have to climb if you do everything right and things progress and your genetics allow you to do that, where it's like, okay, top five, top three, class win, get in the overall, win the overall. Like you've got like 7, 8, 9 steps probably for most athletes, right? And that's again if you do everything right, if you do everything consistently, and you have a genetic capability of moving up, right? So you carried that attitude into 2025, and I think that served you very well because it kept you humble, which I think also kept you working very hard because I think a lot of people can get into that position of success. You win that show, you win that overall, and then you kind of get on this high horse of I'm untouchable. And then it kind of then those efforts kind of wane a little bit, right? And that's when someone maybe who's on your heels, who's still pushing, can kind of take you over. So recapping the season, um 2 CPA overalls, right? No, you did two shows but 3 overalls.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
three overalls, goes to nationals, national title, and then me and you were the other two in the overall that were Canadian, and then Fareed obviously got us both. But you know, Obviously, we were the top two in the country at that period. And then you do OCB, gets OCB Pro Card. Okay, so another federation, OCB Pro Card in bodybuilding, gets in the mix at the Yorton Cup, so the World Championships, the OCB's premier stage. For those not familiar, the OCB at the Yorton Cup kind of has like a, what's the word? Like a qualifying system, like at the show where you kind of go out in your group and then they narrow that down and then they narrow that down. So you're at the world stage in the OCB. We do WMBF. You get a pro card in the WMBF. Probably, would have got the other classic card, objectively looking at the other individual that got it. So obviously 2025 was a killer season. But what did it take to do that, Alex? Tell me on your end when I go to you and say, okay, Alex, we need you 10 odd pounds leaner than 2022, more than likely. So, someone can hear that and be like, well, I've spent all this time getting bigger. What do you mean I'm going to be smaller? Right. So you hear that. You also hear me say, we need to start prep now, which was 50 weeks out.
Um,
Tell me about that because I know I've had conversations with competitors, and I've mentioned similar things, and usually, unfortunately, that sees people kind of run, right? They go maybe to another coach who says like, "Oh no, man, we could do it in 16 weeks for sure," or "No, you don't need to lose that much. You be on stage 10 pounds heavier for sure." So tell me as someone, because we at that point we don't know each other, right? We've had a conversation, you've seen my work, but other than that, we don't know each other. I tell you these things, what goes in through your head?
um, Honestly, when I first heard the length of the proposed prep, I can't lie, I was like kind of like, God
Yep.
damn, like it's a long time in
Yeah.
comparison to what I initially did. But because I knew your portfolio and your expertise, I trusted that this is clearly what is needed
That
to
that T
bring.
that T word.
Yeah, trust. That's key.
Yep.
So yeah, no, I trusted in you and your knowledge and expertise, and I knew that if you're telling me it's 50 weeks, then it's 50 weeks. So I can't speak for others, but I'm the type of athlete just that if you give me the instructions, they're going to be
Yes.
followed to the letter. It's just kind of how I operate. Like I said, I'm not super concerned with the placements and stuff like that. I just really wanted to achieve a look that I knew I was capable of, and
Yeah.
put my full efforts forth towards doing this because I was committed. So I kind of just gave myself to the
Yep.
process and put my
Yeah.
head down and followed everything to the letter, as
Can,
best
can
as I
you
could.
can you talk about that process leading to the first show of, did you fall off? Did you have any moments of weakness? Was there any things that you didn't tell me through that period?
Um, Honestly, I think I was because the 2022 prep was so brutal on me. I was pleasantly surprised with the
Sure.
start of our prep,
Yeah.
and how I was feeling leading up to the first OCB show.
Hmm.
I don't think that the really severe side effects of prep had kicked in at that point,
Yeah.
which they definitely did.
Yeah.
Going
Par for the
forward.
course.
Exactly. So I was feeling pretty good at that time. Obviously, there's the self doubts and the comparisons that kind of nag on your brain and stuff. But just tried my best to keep myself in my own lane and
Yeah.
chugging along. Like I said, as long as I knew that I was doing absolutely everything in my power to follow the plan to the T,
Hmm.
then I could be satisfied with whatever result happened at the show.
Yep.
That gave me a lot of comfort and confidence,
Peace.
peace of mind. I really, I knew I was putting my full efforts forth, and because of that, I think I
Yeah.
was able to actually go into that first show without a ton of pressure.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
tried to remove as much expectation from show day as I could, and just tried to enjoy the day itself,
Hmm.
and really be in the present moment. And
Yeah.
people say, show day comes and goes so quickly. If you're in your head, you're gonna like miss it almost, right?
For
So
sure. Yeah. Yeah.
um, you
I've
know,
seen people do that where, I've been with them at a show and I can tell that they're just kind of, whether they're backstage looking at people or the night before they get tanned, and then I'll check on them before we go to bed, and I can tell there's kind of some wind out of their sails, and I'm like, man, like you've worked so hard for this. Don't let that headspace, because you'll close your eyes Friday night and go to bed, and you'll wake up Sunday morning and you're like, oh shit, like I competed yesterday? I have zero recollection of that, right?
yeah.
One of the things that we did, because of the length of season and our season, we obviously had our targets, but there was kind of plug and play sometimes with like, okay, if this happens, we'll go here. If this happens, we'll go here. But one of the things we did was we paced your season, with regards to the shape you needed to be in, and when you were probably going to be at peak, Alex, because we didn't want you to burn out, right? Like if you were, I think we can look at maybe that like mid-August was like dialed in. Like I look at some of your Can Fit photos, some of the Nationals photos. I think that was probably like your best look. Um, and then it kind of waned a little bit, which is just par for the course sometimes, right? Lessons learned.
Yeah.
But, you know, OCB was June. Your season, eventually finished in September, but we knew at least August was for sure, right? We were at least WMBF at minimum was going to be the end of the season, regardless of whatever happens outside of that. So June, July, August, basically 3 months. How did you feel? How do I ask this? Because I struggled with this last season when I did Toronto. Did you have any feelings of like you're going to compete, but you're not going to be your best yet? Did that mess with you at all?
Honestly, yeah. Leading into the OCB show, we had discussed it, so it wasn't like I
Wasn't a
was
surprise.
blindsided. It wasn't,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I wasn't surprised that I wasn't going to be fully striated on the glutes in the first show. But because we had discussed it and we knew that that kind of a show, it might not be
Didn't
necessary to
demand
bring, like,
it. Sure.
yeah, exactly, bring 100% conditioning.
Yep.
I was okay with that.
Yeah.
I was also quite content with how things were looking, because I had already
Yeah, we'd already
surpassed what I had
surpassed.
brought
Yeah.
in 2022. So I was just super stoked to see all the crazy changes that were occurring. But yeah, I think just, it's deceptive for an athlete to really understand how much weight they need to lose to actually achieve like that elite level of conditioning. I know I was, really surprised as we kept pulling weight off, and things kept sharpening up, that I was
Yeah.
like, man, when when are we just
When
going to
does it
be
end?
there, right? Exactly. So
Yeah.
I think that's something that a lot of people don't really fully understand when they get into it. Is
What
they
do
think that,
you what do you think, sorry to interrupt. What do you
I don't know.
think blocks people from that, right? So I would say on average, especially at like the regional level, most aren't there. You know what I mean? In conditioning. And let's be honest, even at nationals locally, you're not seeing most competitors, a small number of competitors are like that dugout where you're like, okay, that is elite, right? And that was kind of my whole thing with even me last year. I kept saying, I want to be elite. I want to be elite. Yes, I had certain objectives in mind for shows, for placings, but like I just wanted to, similar to you, I want to get there. I want to prove to myself, to my supporters, to my coach that like, look, I can get there, but most don't, right? Most go their whole career without doing that. What do you think stops people from doing that? Do you think it's hard? Do you think it is some ego of like, I'm not getting down there? Like, are you kidding? Like 150 pounds? What are you talking about? Like, no way. I'm going to be 185 on stage. Like, what do you think maybe is in that for people?
I think number one definitely is the difficulty involved. I think it requires a lot more sacrifice than people really
Yeah.
understand. Physically, mentally, on your relationships, on your life. When you're approaching that elite level, you really like stop functioning
It
in a
hurts.
lot of yeah, you're hurting, and it's hard to continue living your life with everything involved in that state.
Mhm.
And then I think, yeah, like you said, it's probably also a mix of just people have inflated expectations of oh, I'm going to step on at 185, and again they don't realize how much weight needs to come off to actually get to that peak.
Yeah.
So a mixture of the two. I think the difficulty mixed with just people just not having the knowledge and expertise and
Yeah.
experience to know that, hey, like I'm going to have to get down to 150 if I really do want to show up at my sharpest, right? So
And it's, I've been doing this a long time and it's still sometimes like I'll see someone get there and I'm like, God, you look so much better. You look bigger, you look rounder, everything looks fuller because you can see everything. There's cuts where there was never cuts before. Like it's a tough sell because it's going to be a longer prep. It's going to be probably a harder prep to some degree. You're going to weigh less than maybe you ever have before, but it's to get people to understand like I'm telling you when like we talked about like early in this podcast, like what you see in your head of what you want to be on stage, tie nothing to that from like body weight, stats, whatever, and just be like, what do I need to do to get there? Nothing else matters.
yeah,
Because I promise you that then when you do want to achieve a placing or a pro card or a title or whatever the case may be, if you just focus on like what it takes to bring this, your likelihood of those things happening goes up greatly because the judges don't care that you're not 180. The judges don't care that you don't bench three plates anymore. The judges don't give a shit that medium t-shirts are loose on you. They don't give a shit. They judge what's in front of them. So it's getting people to understand that like, okay, if that is what happens on show day, then we need to make sure what's in front of them is the best it can be. Right. And I think for you, for me, for other clients that I've seen do very well and achieve the good things that, let's be honest, we all want to do stuff, right? Yes, there's the journey of I want to be better and all that kind of stuff. I want to be my best. But there's a part of us, sometimes it's small, sometimes it's big, of I want to achieve ABC. And it's getting people to really kind of sink their teeth into like, I don't really care what it takes to do it. I'll just do it and letting everything go. Right? What was your do you remember your scale difference from 22 to 25 on stage? Because we were 164, 165
yeah,
ish.
I think at the lowest we ever got in depletion in the peak weeks was, yeah, we were touching down at like, yeah, 165, and then
Yep.
stepping on stage at my lowest at I think 168. And that was for the Yorton. Um, So I think for the 2022 show, I think I stepped on stage at around 175. Um,
So
but
give or take
again,
10
that was,
pounds of
yeah,
legit body fat.
yeah, yeah,
And
for
people
sure.
would look at you in those 2022 photos being like, dude's in good shape, especially, excuse me, for like a regional standard, right?
Yeah,
You won both overalls in classic and bodybuilding. So you're an overall winner, you're going to nationals, but like imagine this 2025 Alex at nationals standing next to that guy.
yeah,
Like it would have been a no contest, you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
it literally wouldn't have been even, you made that Alex look fat in
yeah,
perspective, right? In comparison.
truly. Yeah,
But, if we could have invented a time machine and been like, yo, dude, you're going to compete again in 3 years and you're going to be like 10 pounds lighter. You're going to be like, what happened? What did I do wrong? Right?
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I, I think detaching the scale weight from the result you're looking for is absolutely key.
It's so important.
Um, those kind of metrics mean nothing, like you said. Like when you're on stage, the judges aren't looking at your stat sheet and like, okay, you can
Yeah.
bench 350, just like you said, right? So all of those things mean nothing. It's literally what you bring and what you show. So that was a learning experience for me because I definitely was someone who was definitely monitoring my scale weight and in
Yep.
terms of my off season progression
Yeah. I
and
want to be big. We all want to be big, right?
exactly, yeah, just if I can get to 230, that'll be, I'll have
That's
enough
it.
muscle to
Yeah.
achieve XYZ, right? So yeah, just kind of separating the two was very important. But I was just so stoked to see the changes and the levels
Yeah.
that I was getting to that, like, I didn't give it a hoot what the scale was
No.
reading as long as it was going down, because I knew every pound that dropped off was just more lines, more, vascularity, more striations. And I was
Yep.
so excited to see that transformation take place, that
Yeah.
it didn't matter if the strength was decreasing slightly, which obviously you want to do everything in your power to stave that off as long as you can, but it's inevitable.
Yep.
The weight difference is
Yep.
freaking
Yeah.
50 plus pounds. you're
Weight
you're,
moves
you're
weight.
not going to be you're not going to be lifting at your peak strength when you're at the tail end of a prep, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It's
separating
fun.
the two is key.
It's funny, man. So I've been competing for 10, last year was 10 years. And I think the only time I've been north of like 155 on stage over the 10 years is when I did the qualifier in Toronto last season because I wasn't in shape yet. I just needed the qualification. So I was like, we'll jump on. And I think I was high 150s, right? Like I might have been like, I don't count it, but I was probably 160 on stage, like carved up. So my ego can run with that. But truly, like for a 10 years of competitive bodybuilding, I've been early 150s, give or take. And I've never been one to like get tied to it, but I wonder again if in some universe we could invent a time machine that I could go back and like shout at myself after my first show and be like, "You're gonna do this for 10 more years, right?" And the guy's gonna go, "Yep." But I'm gonna be like, "You're not gonna get any bigger." Like on the scale. Because 21-year-old me might have been like, the fuck are you talking about, man? Like, no, man, I'm gonna get huge.
Yeah.
It's a weird dynamic. So we do the season. You have good success. You leave the season with what mindset?
Um,
Because let me touch on it real quick. You were mentioning to me like I don't know when or if this happens again, right? This was kind of a swing for the fences season, life, family, travel, business, all the other things that live in the world outside of this narrow world of bodybuilding that we live in. So when you close the season out, was it like, I did it. Nice. I'm proud. I'm happy. I'm satisfied. Like what was that looking like once the dust settles?
Initially, definitely just that. I was immensely satisfied with the journey. I was proud of the consistent commitment that I was able to bring.
Yep.
And following everything to the best of my abilities. So, I kind of sat with that for a while and was content. But I can't lie, very quickly, I
Yeah.
was like, you know what, like, here's the thing, like,
You're like, fuck, I'm
I
good at
don't.
this.
I don't have any intention of competing maybe in the next year, two, three, but if I'm going to be going to the gym regardless, which I will always do because I love it,
Yep.
might as well have
Might as
a
well just
goal
keep
to work
going.
towards, and keep progressing in some form towards something that may or may not happen in the future. But
Yep.
yeah, I definitely, yeah, I immediately basically found a program, and
Yeah.
just looked at my weak points and was like, okay, this is what needs to happen if I want to improve. And then, like I said, I'm going to be at the gym anyway, so I just started
Yep.
plugging away.
Yeah. I was very similar. Like I finished the season and I was like, this was hard. It was harder with a kid than I expected. That compound on your relationship that you're like, oh, like I don't know if I want to put my family through this again. And
Yeah.
you kind of look at it with like like tinted glasses, you're like, man, I don't know if it's worth it. Like, and even when you do well, you know what I mean? Like, obviously you did really well. I did well. You know, we achieved the things we wanted to for the most part, but you kind of come out of it and you're like, nah, I don't know, man. Like, I'm kind of grown up now. I got other responsibilities. I've got other goals outside of the sport with family and all that kind of stuff, but it wears off, right? Couple weeks go by, you're fed again. You're not tired anymore. You're not cranky anymore. You and your wife have gone out for dinner a couple times and you're like, you know, I love it.
True. Yeah,
And yeah,
it's
like you said, right? Like whether that ever translates to returning to the stage, I think the lifestyle of bodybuilding, right? Being a bodybuilder is kind of ingrained in us as far as like I'll still train. Like if competitive bodybuilding got illegal tomorrow, like I would still train. I would still do all this shit, right? Nutrition wise, like I mean, none of us are eating without some sort of protein source at some point, whether it's a shake or chicken or a protein bar or whatever. Like there's just so many of these little small, like unconscious habits that support bodybuilding, regardless of if it's aspirations to compete or not, right? And that's something else that I think a lot of people underappreciate when they look at someone who's built a physique or done this for a long time and they're like, you know, how do you do it? And it's like, I don't really know anything else at this point. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not a partier. I'm not a drinker. I'm not recreational drugs. Like, I don't stay up till 3 in the morning playing video games. Like, there's all these things that are just not a part of my life that would take away from it. And all these things that are just kind of par for the course of how we operate day to day that, again, regardless of the stage or not, it would still start putting those building blocks in place that 2, 5, 10 years from now, if you competed again, there would be changes, right? Like whether it's directly 100% effort or not, it's like, oh, I've still been doing this, right? Like just because I haven't been counting every macro to the gram for the last 4 years doesn't mean I haven't been doing the shit that conducive to results, right?
yeah, 100%.
So let's wrap this up with some words of wisdom because people are going to watch this that are new. Maybe they're in prep right now. Maybe they want to compete this year, next year, whatever the case may be. And they're like, you know what does it take to bring my best? Right? Let's throw placings aside, but let's focus on what's it going to take to bring your best. What would you tell that person? They're like, you know what, Alex, looked up to you last year. You killed it. Tell me the secret.
I think first and foremost is finding a coach you can trust, and you know that really I can't understate just the importance of that because
I can
you
also
know
echo that statement for sure.
regardless of how strong your mentality is in prep, you're going to question things. You're going to you're your own worst critic, and having someone there who's objectively looking and guiding you
Yep.
with that expertise and knowledge is really important to keep yourself grounded, to avoid getting in your head and maybe making adjustments on your own because you think XYZ when you're kind
Yeah.
of not in the right mind space to be doing that.
Yeah.
And then I would say number two is just put your head down and just following things
Yeah.
as close as you can to what the program is telling you to do. Um, I think when you trust your coach, when they give you a program, if you just put your head down and follow things, you're going to put yourself in a position that regardless of what you're seeing in the mirror, what the scale says,
Yeah. Or what you feel, what you think.
yep, how you're feeling in the day to day, you're going to continuously make that progress, because hopefully you pick someone that knows what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say try to just keep plugging away, and I know it's hard. It gets hard. There's a lot of physical and mental difficulties that come along with
Yeah.
achieving crazy results in this sport. But if you're putting your full efforts forth, and you're consistent, and you're not kind of giving in to the voices and the weaknesses that come along and stuff like that, I think you're going to put yourself into a great position
Yeah.
to achieve whatever you're looking for.
It's funny that first comment you made because I remember you voicing things and then me being that echo back for you of talking you through them. But then I would go to Cliff with similar things because like I can't be that for myself,
Yeah.
right? Last year I'm you're doing all the things, Ural's doing all the things, Calvin's doing all the things, and I'm that for you guys. But then when it comes to me, I would have like a similar message go to Cliff that you would send me of like, I feel flat today. I'm small. Do you think I'm getting like, should we press the gas a little bit? Whatever the case may be. And I'd be like, look, man, blah, 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 blah. But then I would check in the next day with Cliff and be like, hey, dude, do you think we should press the gas? But it's true, man. Like, I think does everybody need a coach? Like, no, but I think there's so much value in having someone, like you said, you trust and who's going to be that kind of guiding light for you when you have those moments of stress and weakness. And, maybe you'd make a decision that feels right in the moment, but doesn't support the overall goal, right? Like, if you were doing this yourself, maybe you're like, no, 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 I'm going to full send it for Elevate at the start of June. But then by the time like August rolls around, like your body is crash and burned, and now you're third at nationals, and you don't get a WNBF pro card because your physique is withered away, right? Like those are the things that like similar to me last season. Like I remember coming up to the qualifier in April, being like, I don't know if I'm even ready to get on stage right now, and you know, Cliff being like, what's the goal? Well, the goal's nationals. Then this show, just let it go, right? Get up there, do your thing, get your qualification, whatever it is, and then look forward because like keep the goal the goal. Don't let your head send you making decisions because it's not like you don't want to win this show, but there's other things that you're chasing, right?
And you can't show up 100% to every show. It's just
No,
impossible.
no,
You know,
especially when they are spread out, right? Like if you have, you know, back-to-back weekends or 2 weeks in between, bang bang, then you can be like 98 and 100. But when you're talking, between you and I, like a couple months between a first and a final show, like you gotta audit that time intelligently and just make sure that you're pacing yourself because had we have both started our seasons peak, what we really wanted probably wouldn't have happened, right?
chance.
So yeah. One more question for you because this is something that is far too common is I want to turn pro. I want to win, but I've never competed before. What would you tell someone who said that to you? Especially here's one more just I can tack on. Especially if you can look at them and say, like it's not there. Like it won't happen this season, right? It won't happen right now. What do you tell them to keep them motivated, but help them understand they're here, what they want is here, and we're going to work towards it, but we need to be realistic.
Um, I think time is one of the key factors when it comes to natural bodybuilding. The longer you've been training, the more your physique is going to speak that length of time.
Yeah.
So, if someone is, 3 years into their fitness journey and, all of a sudden they catch the bodybuilding bug and, they see these people online, they're crushing, getting the pro cards and all that. It's honestly, it's just an unrealistic, goal that they're setting for themselves initially. It's you're competing against potential guys who have been doing this for 10 plus 15 plus years,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the fact that you can expect to bring the same quality and level of physique as those competitors is just not realistic. So I think it's super important in this sport to enjoy the journey and the process, and to not rush things. Everybody wants that instant gratification. They
Yeah.
want to turn pro tomorrow. They want to turn pro in their first season. But again, if you don't have 10 odd years under your belt, then you're just kind
Yeah.
of like,
Your window's
you know
very small.
you're swinging for the friggin' fences there,
Yeah.
man. Like, it's just, yeah, it doesn't
Yep.
doesn't make sense. So
It sets people up for failure too, right? Because
yeah,
then it's like, well, if I don't achieve it now, or I don't win this season, or I don't, whatever the case may be, then what's the point? It's like, well, if that's all you're here for,
yeah, that's
you're going to be
not the
a
right.
a spark and simmer if you do
Yeah,
get up there. But this process, right? Like, you've only competed 2 seasons, but you've been training most of your whole life. And you know, most people that are achieving greatness have been doing this so long. But people don't see that, you know what I mean? Like, people see the now, but they don't see, 10 years ago when you were in the gym, you know what I mean? Or
yeah,
people see stage photos now, but they don't see what you looked like a decade ago and what
100%.
you've built in that time, right? So I think the more people can just, like you said, like kind of tie into the journey and latch on to that and be like, I'm in this for the love of the game. Yes, I have goals, but I'm going to be appreciative and realistic on what might be involved to achieve those, and not say like, well, if it doesn't happen now, if it's not this show, if it's not this year, if it's not my first season, you know, what's the point? Well, that's not the point. You're missing the point. And that's why a lot of people kind of turn and run. Or they compete for one season, and because they don't place what they think they do, they're like, well, bodybuilding's not for me. But we've probably lost a lot of great athletes from that,
100%.
because maybe 5, 10 years from now, they're your pro winner.
Yeah,
They're your national champion, right? But because it didn't happen season one, they're like, nope, I'm not doing it.
yeah. So if you get too hung up on the result and the expectation of achieving whatever placement in the show itself, then
Yep.
you're missing the key, which is, like you said, loving the game, man. It's a journey, it's a process. It's got to take time. There's not many natural Ronnie Colemans walking around. So if you're not that guy, one in a billion, a million, whatever, it's very unlikely you're going to get that desired result on your first try.
Yep.
So therefore, you really need to just sink into the process. And if you truly love the sport,
That stuff
time's
kind of
just
shouldn't
another
matter
metric.
anyways.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You're going to continue doing it regardless, and it's only really a matter of time before you could potentially achieve what you're looking for.
Yep.
If you're consistent and you're putting your head down and grinding.
Yep. Yeah.
People really don't realize what they're capable of. I think that's another thing. Everybody wants it tomorrow.
What,
But
what's
like you
what's
said,
the what's the quote you people they over how's it go? They over I don't know what the exact word is, but basically like what they think they can do in a year, they over expect, but what they can do in 10 years, they under expect, or something along those lines. Basically, like,
yeah,
you think you're going to crush it this year, but then you have no idea what you could do over the next 10, right?
exactly, man.
Yeah.
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 I
Awesome.
never in a million years, when I first started my fitness journey, 5 years into my fitness journey, I didn't ever have any thought that I would be able to achieve what I have. It kind of just, was a goal that
Kept
I,
showing
had in
up.
the back of my head. And, just like you said, just showing up, and, 10 years later, it happened. Right. So,
Yep. Funny how that works, eh?
yeah,
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate the chat. I think this is going to give a lot of people a lot of value. So thank you for coming on this impromptu episode.
absolutely, man.
Awesome.
Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, yeah. All right, people. If you enjoyed this episode of the Natty News Daily podcast, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, follow us on Instagram, obviously, Natty_news_daily, and we'll see you guys in the next one.